Hey everyone, welcome back to Flow State Reactions. I am Mistari and I am here yet again to react to the Lord of the Rings behind the scenes. This is the Appendices and we are on the Two Towers now. And this particular video is from book to script, finding the story. So we're just going to go ahead and get into this, okay? So everybody relax and let's flow. I'm excited.
Shooting a trilogy
Hi, Peter.
is, I think it's a great experience. It has drawbacks, and I think, in a sense, the middle chapter of the trilogy is the greatest drawback.
Oh,
we front-loaded the schedule with an awful lot of Fellowship stuff. And since Return of the King has a proper ending, and has the resolution of all the stories, the Two Towers script was always going to be somewhat sacrificed.
Fran and I felt like really bad mothers when we actually sat down and sort of realised that there'd been a bit of neglect going on. But
really?
It was
that
tough.
is
this was the
shocking.
Toughest of the three stories for me.
I wouldn't think that it didn't feel neglected at all. It felt really loved to me.
Really, because in a sense, the beginning was the curse of the Fellowship of the Ring, that it took us so long to introduce the characters.
Wow, that is
and
so
I kind
interesting.
of liked the idea we didn't have to do any of that. Tolkien had given us the lead really in the books. In the sense that, we have the Fellowship together in the first film and then they split apart. So the second film has a very different structure. And it follows now three different storylines that we have to sort of interweave the stories together.
Interweaved it,
obviously the Fellowship, by comparison, is a very linear, straightforward road movie.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the way Tolkien put it when he was...
I do remember that, because it was interweaved,
of writing the book,
as opposed to just being separate, standalone parts in the movie.
By that point, where the Two Towers begin, that the only way that he could pay those debts off was to make things even more complicated for a while. And Peter had the same obstacle, even though he had the book and certain solutions. He had to figure out how to keep people interested in all three storylines.
He did so well.
And, make a balanced movie.
As it was an easy decision to intercut these two stories, it was also a really easy decision to not put Shelob in this film. Peter knew it right from the word go, and that is, you don't intercut the huge climax of Helm's Deep with the huge climax of the confrontation with Shelob. And the reason you don't do that is because if you try to intercut them and demand that emotional connection for both sets of stories of the audience, you just end up with a mishmash, and both would kill each other. They'd cancel each other out.
Interesting.
But also, it's not actually accurate.
That is very well thought out.
The genuine timeline that Tolkien created, that the moment that Frodo and Sam are confronting Shelob the Spider is actually happening concurrently with the siege of Minas Tirith. It's not happening with Helm's Deep. It's sometime after Helm's Deep. And, and it's almost like as they're climbing up these stairs towards Shelob's tunnel, you can actually see Minas Tirith in the distance, and the orcs are attacking Minas Tirith, which are the events that happen in Return of the King. So it's not, to actually put it in the Two Towers in a way is not even accurate to what Tolkien wrote.
Oh, good.
We understood that these changes needed to be made, and we had taken the whole Journey to the Crossroads and the Stairs of Cirith Ungol and all of that Shelob into the third film. So therefore we were left with this journey to where, to what, and that is why Faramir had to become an obstacle. So Faramir becomes this obstacle, which is why he takes them to his game.
I came on the project not having read the book. The script had been written, so that was the Faramir that I knew. Then I read the book and I saw that there was a major difference between the script and the book. So I approached the writers about that and brought it up. And that's when Philippa and Fran and Pete gave their reasons as to why they thought the character should Captain of Gondor to show his quality.
And to maybe earn him a bit more of his father's respect, if not love. And then at the very end, for him to truly understand and go through that journey and understand the great evil and understand what it is it did to Boromir, and then be able to, after going through this journey, give up the ring.
Captain Faramir, you've shown your quality, sir. Very highest.
That's a journey, that's a story, that's something that people can relate to.
when people see the scenes in the extended version and then in film 3 as well, I think that there'll be a greater understanding as to why the changes came about.
Always you cast upon reflection on me.
Yeah, I don't have anything to compare it to, so that's all I know of him, a Faramir.
Often we would take very iconic passages from one character and give them to another. Probably the most obvious is the speech of Gandalf's when he's talking about Arwen and she's lying ill in the Houses of Healing.
Mm-hmm.
And we've taken that passage and we gave it to Wormtongue.
Who knows what you've spoken to darkness?
Interesting.
Bitter watches of the night.
Wait, Gandalf was supposed to say this?
Your life seems to
Is that what they mean?
The walls of your bower closing about you, a hutch to trammel some wiles.
I think I misunderstood that.
We wanted a scene where we show how utterly perceptive Wormtongue is, and actually in a bizarre way how connected he is to everything that Arwen is feeling and thinking, and that's probably why he sees himself as the only man who could probably make it all right for her. Typical stalker, really. I think Professor Tolkien would have been that would have
Wormtongue. I did not know that was his name. Lord have mercy.
To me, it's not that Gandalf says it, but that someone says it about her. One of the first creatures that you meet in the book is, of course, Tom Bombadil. He's like a guardian of living things, and
Tom Bombadil.
He's not in the movie. So, of course, we wanted to honour that spirit, which is why we have that very little moment in the extended cut where I think some people may recognise some of Tom's lines as spoken by Treebeard. We figured that Tom wouldn't mind us giving his lines to Treebeard of any character in the book.
Okay.
You should not be waking.
Tom Bombadil.
Drink water.
Treebeard. Helm's deep.
I think the trick with the battle scene is not so much just the battle itself, but it's as much about the build-up to the battle. There's a movie called Zulu, made in the 60s, which depicts the defence of Rorke's Drift, which was where 100 British soldiers fought against 4,000 Zulus. And like the first hour of the movie is just a slow, gut-wrenching kind of build to the first shot being fired, and then once the shot's fired, then all hell breaks loose. And I always
said
wanted
100 to 4,000
to follow that basic pattern, which is establishing how the odds are so badly stacked against them.
Thank you for saying that.
Because it is a similar scenario of, small defenders against
just outrageously
attackers.
Overpowered.
Helm's Deep is this grim, dark, despairing, tough, you're just driving that narrative towards the darkest hour.
Okay.
Now, every darkest hour needs this shining little ray of hope.
And I just thought it was somehow kind of a romantic notion that the elves would give one last piece of assistance to the men before they leave.
And he was so right, because I have seen that film with audiences, and every time those elves turn up, they cheer. And even people who know it's completely wrong, and Tolkien purists who know it's completely wrong,
it is?
still feel something at that moment.
Are you kidding?
In a way,
the elves don't come to the rescue in the book?
Spirit of the old lives, which we wanted to do. And in the book, the elves did fight. They fought. They were holding back the forces in the north that were sent against the peoples of Middle Earth. Lothlorien was burning. Attacks were made on Rivendell.
So they were fighting in their own place, though, not there.
And the others could all leave. That they stay out of devotion and concern for Middle Earth.
And it's also a great movie moment, when you just have
That was a great movie moment.
Outnumbered army.
Yeah.
Is just supplemented by another small army. They're still wildly outnumbered, but it's enough just to give them a fighting chance. And originally we thought that's a great opportunity for Arwen to reappear and to have another connection between her and Aragorn. And it's an opportunity for the two of them to be together, because our real problem
this is really different from the
was
books,
geography. That we had a romance where the two characters, Aragorn and Arwen, weren't in the two towers. They weren't in the same space. They were in two completely different places in Middle Earth. So how on earth can you keep a romantic story going when you can't actually have the two people connecting?
Very early on, we had when we were writing this almost as a selling script, and Arwen had to be, because she was the love of Aragorn's life, much more participatory in the story. You just figure, studio executives who are going to be reading this script, you can't have her 300 miles away from the hero. You know, you try pitching the idea of a psychic connection between two lovers, and they'll just tell you, get out of there, which, you know, I wouldn't blame them.
And so our solution was bring Arwen in with the elves, have her as part of Helm's Deep.
And certainly we got a lot of fan reaction to that. There was of which Tolkien himself said the one concerning Arwen and Aragorn was the most important one to him.
Now that we've managed to come back to the book, what we discovered is that the love story could be more unconventional, that you could in fact tell the story as written with these two main characters being apart from each other because they were always together.
So it wasn't until the second half of shooting when we really started to change everything, and when we came back to who Arwen truly is, that I really just, I was so into it and so liberated and happy. I was skipping around the set, and I just, at that point, I just went right back into the book and into the appendix. And what we came to realize was that you don't have to put a sword in her hands to make her strong. This is an incredibly powerful and fearless woman, filled with so much hope and belief, and that is strong enough.
What we really had to do, and what the difficult little trick we had to do was to okay, if we weren't going to have live in Helm's Deep and we weren't going to do this, which we were sort of happy not to go there in a way because it was, if you can avoid it, then avoid it.
Okay.
But we still had this problem of getting the two of them together, Aragorn and Arwen.
Yeah.
So we eventually cracked it by devising a way in which we could present flashbacks instead of forcing them together in terms of the progression of the Two Towers storyline.
I loved it. I thought that's the way it was.
Flashback to events before the Two Towers, and we'd be able to see them at Rivendell together. On the eve of Aragorn leaving with the Fellowship. And so that was actually the solution. And it was when we had that solution that we felt comfortable about, okay, let's just change it. Let's actually go back because we've got another way that we can actually do this now.
Right.
It just took us about a year to actually think of the alternative method of doing
Good
the
for
two of them
you.
together.
And what's great about Peter and Fran and Philippa is they came to that conclusion very organically.
Okay.
And were able to sort of innovate and come up with far more powerful material for Arwen.
I found that to be very
powerful. Now, you think to yourself, how could we have ever contemplated anything different? But that's the process of movie making.
Yeah. I love knowing that.
And it is a good dream.
That they had to really toss the thoughts around in their minds for a while, and then they came together as a group. And like they said, this was created organically. That's so beautiful.
We had the disadvantage of not having anybody dying in this film, which sounds like a silly thing to say, but Boromir's death at the end of the Fellowship of the Ring gave us a powerful climactic moment, and in this film, all of our heroes survive. And so we used what we did have in this movie, which was a huge action climax.
Yeah, that's true. Everybody did survive.
Victory at Helm's Deep, but you also wanted to have something else resonate with Frodo and Sam, and you also needed for it to be Frodo and Sam, who are the central story. Who really are the central story, where what they have gone through brings them together, what everybody else has gone through, so those disparate story threads are being pulled together. We knew it had to be driven by Frodo and Sam, so that's when we knew that we had to go to Osgiliath. We had to push the obstacle of Faramir to the point where it becomes dangerous to our mission and to Frodo, but also that he rejects and cannot see
so good.
And greater changes in Fellowship on some levels that are so readily accepted now and not commented upon at all.
Yeah.
It's always the tricky thing with novels and translating them to screen is changing things and shifting things and having a different perspective on things.
The age of Frodo, for example, just accepted and everyone embraces it, and it's not a big issue. But I think for Professor Tolkien it would have been. I think it would have been
what do you mean the age
one
of
the
Frodo?
Bizarre things that he would have objected to, where other people who hold themselves as sort of like the guardians of this literature have completely accepted it.
Those changes were made.
Was Frodo supposed to be?
Additions were made to help that story along. And it was the most difficult story to tell.
She did say the age of
the truth
Frodo,
is, you
right?
can't be a guardian of this. It's an organic thing. It's the film is what it is.
It's organic.
The books are untouchable. They exist. They will always exist. And this is one group of fans' version. We all love these books. We're all fans of these books in this world. And this is our
very interesting,
our vision, our attempt to bring it to life.
And got.
Oh, I loved every moment of that. My goodness. Okay, so I'm going to stop it here while the other one is loading. Okay, everyone, I'm going to go ahead and stop the editing here. We will continue along next week with designing Middle-earth. Okay, so let me just go ahead and start with saying that I love so much that Philippa was in this particular video. She was in this more than the other ones, and I just loved her. I loved her, getting to see her personality more. And the fact that she is able to write in the way that she is and to tell the story and to have that vision, it is just fantastic. She is completely in the flow state. And I love that she had like her little crew with Fran and Peter and how they were just innovating every step of the way. I did not realize that they changed so much from the book. I'm sure you guys have mentioned comments over the past several months about the changes, but just seeing it here on the documentary just really opened my eyes. I didn't even, of course, all I know is what I've seen. So the fact that Faramir was a completely different story, to the point to where the actor actually approached them and addressed the issue, like what are we doing here? And so, and I'm glad that he was able to take the direction and to because what I know of Faramir, to me, he was his own hero. I don't know how he was in the books, but he was our ally. He helped us in the end. In the beginning, it felt like he was a threat, but he actually helped us in the end. I was really interested in the fact that the story with Arwen and Aragorn was different, and they were really torn between how to put their romance up on screen. I loved what they came up with, but they said they were tossing around ideas for like a year in order to come up with that, which is just fantastic to me. I was also surprised that the elves were not actually at Helm's Deep, but they were actually fighting elsewhere. So that's interesting. It was such an overwhelming surge of emotion when the elves arrived to help us, because listen, we were outnumbered, right? We were outnumbered, overpowered, just like, what can you do? It was really hopeless at one point. So when the elves came in, it just felt like, oh, we got something, right? It was our miracle, and they really did help us. We needed that. They even mentioned Frodo's age, which I thought was interesting. So Frodo was he younger or was he older in the books? I'm really interested in that. Also, I find it interesting that they consider the Two Towers to be the most neglected out of all three movies. Because for me, I had a very different experience watching these movies, since I watched them back to back to back. Like literally, once I finished watching The Fellowship of the Ring, I watched Two Towers, and then I watched Return of the King. Like I didn't have any breaks. And so to me, it's like one movie. Just my experience is one movie. Like most people, it seems as if the story is they watch The Lord of the Rings multiple times waiting for the Two Towers to come out, and then watch the Two Towers multiple times and waiting for the Return of the King to come out. And so you can distinctly remember what each movie entails. But for me, it's just all one movie, if that makes sense. So when they even started talking about Shelob and not putting Shelob in the Two Towers, to me it was like, what? Because to me it was just all in the whole movie. So I couldn't tell you which which movie, like even with Faramir, I was like, oh yeah, okay, I guess he was in Two Towers, but he wasn't in The Lord of the Rings, right? I mean, in Fellowship of the Ring, right? And he was in Two Towers. He was also in The Return of the King, right? So, you know, just trying to keep all of that together. And so, yeah, I just have a very different experience with, I realized that as I was watching this particular documentary that, oh my God, this all feels just like it's all a part of the same movie. I couldn't tell you anything about what was in the Two Towers until they actually bring it up. And it's like, okay, well, I guess that's where it breaks off. So, yeah, I'm very interested to see more moving forward. Of course, as I keep mentioning, I'm so excited to see what they did with Gollum. So I can't wait to see that. And yeah, we're starting designing Middle Earth, right? So, all right, here we go. Thank you guys so much for joining me yet again. And I will see you guys sometime next week with another video. All right, until then, let's flow.